Hello Dr. Humans, welcome back to the channel and to today's video where we are going to be doing your diabetes primer. The reasons for all the drugs, it's going to all come together. So I don't know about you, but I find that diabetes is just an area that has completely exploded in the past few years, and it's confusing. There's a lot of articles, there's a lot of literature, the guidelines are changing. The current guidelines don't even really represent what we're doing because there's been another paper since then, and it's just a lot, right? It's just a lot. And apart from that, a lot of the drugs have these kind of multi-purpose functions. There's sugars, some of them we use for the proteinuric CKD, and some of them even have cardiovascular benefit, right? So it can actually be quite confusing to know why you're using all the drugs. So this is what we're going to be doing today. This is going to be a quick win video. The idea is to give you a primer, a diagram, some coat hangers, so that when you're reading about this yourself, or if you go to your college lectures or your exam courses, or if you want to come to the Renal for the Written program, we're actually doing a deep dive immersion on this where we will unpack this, all the evidence base in a super fun way so that you never forget. Absolute gold if you are studying for your written exam. Just join the Renal for the Written program over on our website. But stay with me now for your diabetes primer. This is all going to evolve around this diagram right here. So it's kind of like a Venn diagram, but you'll see I've left little spaces for where things overlap. The glycemic control, the cardiovascular risk, and the diabetic nephropathy itself all overlap. The sugar control itself can affect the diabetic nephropathy as well as promote cardiovascular risk. The renal disease can promote cardiovascular risk, because what we know is that the worse your renal function is, that is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. But also if you have proteinuria, the proteinuria itself is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and the worse the proteinuria is, the worse your cardiovascular risk. So it's all related, right? So having diabetic nephropathy is a risk factor for cardiovascular events, and a pretty major one at that. But also cardiovascular risk factors are risk factors for renal disease, so hypertension, smoking, obesity, they can all put pressure on the kidney as well. And so everything's all interlinked here on this diagram. And so it's any wonder that the drugs we use have overlapping functions as well. So in terms of tackling these, like I say, I will be doing a deep dive, so this is just an overview. But of course, in terms of glycemic control, first of all, we're going to want to do that for all of those reasons, to reduce the microvascular complications and the macrovascular complications. And we can do this in a number of ways depending on the patient. So of course, your type 1 diabetics, you're only going to have insulin at your disposal. That's it, right? That's it. Mostly what I'm talking about here is type 2, right? Because we can use lots of other things in them. So in this group of people where they have type 2 diabetes and you're looking for something for their sugars, of course you want to start with metformin. So we're going to start with metformin. That is going to be our first line. And second line these days is usually, in this person with diabetic nephropathy, is usually an SGLT2 inhibitor. And third line is usually a GLP-1 agonist for the sugars. Now you could use other things. You could use linagliptin, you could use sitagliptin if they've got enough renal function, you could use the glycosides, right? If it's just purely for the sugars, no one's going to criticize you. But the reason for this is because these SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 agonists have multi-functions, right? So not only do they control the sugars, but they also have a renal protective effect and cardiovascular risk benefit, right, in the big trials. Okay, so if you're looking for something for the sugars, reach for those ones. You won't be wrong in this situation. And so coming on to the microvascular complications of nephropathy, retinopathy, and neuropathy, and those are largely driven by poor glycemic control. But in diabetic nephropathy, we're quite lucky that we have a lot of trials here and a lot of ways to hopefully improve this. And of course, one thing that you're probably aware of in diabetic kidney disease is proteinuria. Not all of them have this, but microalbuminuria deteriorating into albuminuria, that is usually how diabetes goes. So they may have proteinuria and CKD. And our goals here, purely just on the renal front, is that we want to slow down the progression of the CKD and minimize the proteinuria. And we do that for the kidneys, but we also do it to reduce that cardiovascular risk, okay? And we're going to do that in a number of ways. Again, we're going to see these drugs again, but we're going to start usually with RAS inhibition, so either an ACE inhibitor or an ARB. That's going to be the starting point in most patients. Okay, I've now switched cameras because that one ran out of life or something. SD card memory. Okay, so staying with me now. So for the renal disease, we have the RAS inhibition, which is your ACE inhibitor or angiotensin receptor blocker. Also controlling their blood pressure with whatever means, whether it's amlodipine or whatever, that's also going to be really good for them. But of course, in terms of specific drugs here, we have the ones with a dual purpose. So we can again use SGLT2 inhibitors here for their anti-proteinuric properties. And we can use GLP-1 agonists for their anti-proteinuric properties. Who knew? And what we can also do here is a new drug called finerenone, or an MRA. So we actually have been using spironolactone for many years to do this, but there are big trials now which show finerenone, which is a mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist, is very good at this. All right, so that's something we add in. So those are all your options. So the SGLT2 inhibitors and the GLP-1 agonists have already made it onto this diagram. But now we can add in RAS inhibitors and the MRAs, right? And we know that they have an impact in terms of protecting the kidney, but they also have an impact when it comes to cardiovascular risk reduction, because that's what the trial showed. When they looked at the kidney, they always just take into consideration how the heart felt about everything. And so there we go. So basically, we've got our SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 agonists help the glycemic control, but also all of the other things. The kidneys, the cardiovascular risk, the whole boona. And then now we have our RAS inhibition and our MRAs helping out the CKD, helping out the heart. It's magical. And basically those are the drugs, okay? Now, just to beef this out a little bit, of course, in cardiovascular risk world, in addition to that, you're going to want them to have, smoking cessation, all the lifestyle things, weight loss, whatever they really need that way. The lipids are going to be under control, blood pressure control again here, the glycemic control like before, okay, all of that's interconnected. Lastly, over here, we have something I've forgotten. What was I going to say there? Oh yes, antiplatelets, yeah. Antiplatelets. Now, antiplatelets in modern day, we're only really giving these for secondary prevention. So if the patient's already had a heart attack or a stroke or something, then you could give them an antiplatelet for that. So we don't tend to give it straight up primary prevention nowadays, is my understanding. But basically, that's kind of the diagram that you need in your head before you embark on all the trials and everything. That's going to give you your coat hangers for all of the above. Now, of course, like I mentioned before, type 1 diabetes versus type 2 is very different. So in type 1, for sugar control, all you're allowed to give them is the insulin. And when it comes to these other aspects, there's not a lot else you can give them as well. So you can't give an SGLT2 inhibitor or a GLP-1 agonist to a type 1, okay? That's not what you're going to do. Those aren't allowed. When it comes to type 1, you've got insulin, and you've got the kind of blood pressure control things, RAS inhibition, you can use that. When it comes to finerenone and type 1 diabetes, this is still a question mark. There is a trial that's being done in type 1s, the results of which I don't know what they are yet. I don't think anyone does. So hopefully that will come out soon, and we'll be able to talk about whether type 1 diabetics will benefit from finerenone. But right now it's only approved for type 2 diabetes because of the trials. So that is the rough summary, and like I say, I will be doing a deep dive on this. We'll be unpacking this in a lot more detail, going into all of the different nooks and crannies of this, and picking an HbA1c target, and understanding why, and understanding the legacy effect, and it's going to be pure magic. So if you would like to come along to that, be sure to sign up for the Renal for the Written program, and otherwise you might just love this video right here. I'll see you soon, Dr. Humans.